On today's episode, I sit down with Jason Magee, who shares his 15-year struggle with depression and weight loss, and then takes his first dose of a weight loss drug live on air.
I don't love my body because this is not my body.
Once an extremely fit college soccer player, Jason now faces daily challenges that take a toll on his health and his self-worth.
It's that cross-section of emotions that creates the cycle of, oh, I hate myself, let me eat. I eat and eat and eat, not until I'm full. I eat until I'm almost ready to throw up. And I just keep force-feeding myself. Somebody asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't.
But today, Jason is ready for a change.
I'm ready to not feel that way anymore. Just be able to dream again.
Join us as we explore Jason's journey, the struggles, and the hope that comes with taking the first step towards change. You're going to take Wegovy, the GLP-1 inhibitor. You just received your first dose.
Yes, just received my first dose and been on a weight gaining journey, so to speak, for the last 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
My health has gotten severe health problems because of my weight specifically.
Yeah.
Also the cigarettes and, and the other stuff, but mostly my weight.
Yeah.
Just, it's been this long journey of kind of fighting a depression.
Yeah.
So to speak, and that's how I've gotten there. So I'm excited to take this first dose to try and find something that helps me not feel hungry.
Right. And so you're going to take your first dose on air today.
On air today. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to inject myself.
Okay.
Right in the stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is going to be an interview like I've never done before, because we're just going to talk about how you are feeling today, how you came to this point where you decided to take this drug, and then we're going to follow up in 3 to 6 months and see how things are going and what's happened on the weight loss journey.
Right. Perfect. How
much did you weigh in college when you were a college athlete, a soccer player, no less?
All-American soccer player.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I weighed anywhere between 150 and 155.
Yeah.
Was my weight. And that was me being fully athletic, running 6 miles, 7 miles a day, watching everything that I ate, working out in the gym, and being younger with a stronger metabolism.
Yeah.
And after I stopped playing because of injury, a story of 95% of the college athletes out there, I still had habits that I continued where it was working out, but I didn't watch what I ate.
Yeah.
And then that led to a little bit of weight gain. And then, so I'm eating horribly and fighting a lifelong, essentially, depression.
Yeah.
Where when I felt bad, I ate.
Yeah.
Some people don't eat when they feel bad. I ate when I feel bad. And I was self-medicating with food, and that's a learned behavior. Unfortunately, my mother also self-medicated with food.
Okay.
For her stuff. So this is all kind of learned and passed on.
Yeah.
As well as the obesity gene and what have you, and the ability to gain weight in this way.
And how much do you weigh today?
Today, well, the last doctor visit had me at 365 pounds.
Okay.
So
you're essentially carrying around an extra 200-pound person from when you were 22 years old.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that has led to, on top of numerous physical problems, emotionally, that's the worst part.
Right.
Because I know that I'm carrying this humongous person on me, and it doesn't fit my frame. And it's very, very difficult, but I have pre-diabetic. And that leads to when I eat, I get groggy, ready to fall asleep, and just a general blaseness.
Yeah.
And it's hard to be motivated for anything.
Well, and it sounds like the eating starts with the depression.
Yes.
But then as you gain weight, that adds to the depression. So you're entering into a very negative, self-reinforcing cycle.
Absolutely. We know that some people who are large or bigger people love their body.
Right.
And you can't dispute that at all.
Sure.
I don't love my body.
Right.
Because this is not my body.
Right.
Essentially.
Right.
This is not how my body is operated. And that leads to a lot of self-loathing.
Yeah.
And self-loathing and depression. And there's a whole history of the depression and where that comes from. And the self-loathing and not feeling worthy and stuff like that. And then nothing fits, right?
Yeah.
then it's like you look at your clothes and all of your t-shirts are stretched out weirdly. And you're like, oh, how does that happen? It's like, oh, because you're always tugging at them to cover your stomach. So it doesn't look big. And then you buy bigger clothes.
Right.
And you look even bigger.
Yeah.
And you and then it's that cycle. And then you feel bad and you eat.
Yeah.
I wish I felt bad and worked out or didn't eat, but my thing is I eat.
Yeah.
And it's not just an eating, it's a binge eating.
Mm-hmm. What does binge eating look like for you?
Binge eating looks like to me is you get a large pizza and I eat and eat and eat, not until I'm full. I eat until I'm almost ready to throw up. But I don't. And then I just let that sit in and I just keep force feeding myself.
Yeah.
In those moments.
Yeah.
And it's with ice cream. Right.
Okay.
It's not half a pint of Ben and Jerry's. It's 2 pints of Ben and Jerry's after the pizza.
Okay.
So it's just force feeding myself on these moments and really short moments and typically late at night.
Yeah.
So then I just pass out and all those calories then don't have anything to do but go to my body because I'm now not walking. I'm not doing anything, not at work. That's the binge eating part.
Yeah.
And that's how I ate to feel better.
Yeah.
Is by making myself feel sick. I felt better.
Yeah.
Full.
Yeah. When you picture yourself in your mind's eye, what do you see?
That's a tough one because when I was younger, playing soccer and stuff like that, professionally, I see myself as awesome.
As that young, fit guy.
Yeah. And I'm awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm good at what I do and people like being around me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I look at myself in the mirror out of that context, since I was 15, I've hated what I see.
Huh.
Being really good at soccer and having that take me all over the country and different opportunities, that made me feel great. Or when I would go surf or something like that, that would make me feel really good.
Yeah.
But if it's not that, then I absolutely detest who I am.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing because all of my, you being one of my friends, and you all would say that would be crazy that I should ever feel that way about myself. And nobody's, and that's comes from a history of, parental history.
Yeah.
Where that was instilled. But it's just, I've never felt worthy. I've never felt like I was worthy if I wasn't doing professionally or in those spaces. When I'm alone, I hate myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. There's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot to unpack there. That's,
let's just start one at a time here. I think one, I would say in my mind's eye, because I played soccer with you in college. In the intervening 20 years, we have texted consistently all through that time, right? And we see each other in person every so often, but not like back then. Mm-hmm. So in my mind's eye, when I am texting with you, I still see the lightning fast, dominating soccer player that could run and run and run. And I mean, that's the guy I see. And I also see a very well dressed, put together guy, because you really had an impeccable fashion sense.
Right.
And we're really into style. It is interesting now that you look so different and that style is not there either. Maybe because you don't have those same options with the clothes you can buy.
Or desire.
Right. That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
It's the desire.
Uh-huh. Because you don't see yourself that way anymore.
No.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the weight for me has taken over all of that now. So now I don't like what I see and how I feel at all.
Yeah.
At any moments. And you brought up over the 20 years, you all are married, have kids.
Yeah.
I'm the only one in our group who doesn't have that.
Yeah.
And that's because of how I feel about myself.
Right.
And thus, in texting form, I can still be that. For me, texting has allowed me to still be that person to you guys,
mm-hmm.
my friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because being in person, it hurts.
Yeah.
Not because of anything that you guys would ever do.
Sure.
It would never be that way. It's just that I feel gross.
Yeah.
Or I feel like, God, these guys have had everything in their life they're all happy, they're all successful and everything. And it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And it's this.
Yeah.
And that has led to me not seeing you guys.
Right.
In person when we've had meetups or things like that. It's like, I had to work. And yes, there are times when my job literally had me working, in a ridiculous fashion in TV.
Sure.
But there are other times where it was like, I can't make it.
It's an excuse you can use.
It's an excuse.
Oh, yeah, I have
and I've always felt awful about that. So this is actually weird, expression to you all. That, it's basically because of how awful and how I see myself I didn't fit in. Right. It was like, oh, you're going to be there and you're not going to fit in. Right. You're not going to fit in. You're going to feel weird. You're going to feel awkward. And,
well, just so you know, we do all want you to hang out as much as possible. But I also am grateful that you're expressing all of this because I think there are a lot of people across the country and around the world that feel the same way and that aren't able to express it. And this is helpful to them. And along those lines, I mean, the reason I brought up the fashion a little while ago is that, I still see you as that guy on text message as we alluded to, but in person, now you dress in a way that is almost like to blend into the wall and want to not draw attention to yourself. Mm-hmm. And then we'll exit social occasions very quickly. You'll make an appearance so that you're still in touch and everybody knows there's still love there. But then it's just like, hey, I got to go. And then sneak out of there. And that you're saying is down to all these feelings of feeling less than and also just physically not being able to have the stamina to stay somewhere and be engaged and be personable and have a smile on my face for a certain amount of time. Yeah. Because I need to get back to, because it's like self-loathing
and you're not good enough is calling, saying, no, come home. You've done that. You've done that for a little bit. Come home now. That's awkward for you.
Right.
Come back to where you feel comfortable.
So what does that look like when, okay, you're at the social occasion, you hear the self-loathing calling, and what happens after that?
It's quickly, let's get home. And it's on the way back, it's feeling, oh my God, I'm so glad to see all of my friends. I love them so much. And the love that I have for this group of friends is, like tremendous. And I always think I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I just got to see them. And I get home and it's an hour later. And that feeling is, God, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You don't have anything in your life going that's nearly as good as that. And you're fake. You're fake. That's not you. You're gross. You don't fit in. And then it's eat.
Right.
Drink, smoke, drink.
Right.
Go to put myself to sleep.
Yeah.
And then wake up and, do it again. It's a cycle. And, and that's what it is. It's this gratefulness that I have, this tremendous group of friends who are supportive of everybty, like
absolutely
thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And very close.
Yeah.
In such a different way that I don't think a lot of people are, with groups that they went to college with, being that thick and that connected to one another on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
like a daily basis about everything. And we're all very connected as if we lived on the same street.
Right. There are 10 messages a day minimum on that thread.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's like, but then I don't feel like I'm worthy of that level of friendship or that level of love. It's not hard for me to give that love to you all, but accepting it and taking it to heart. I can accept it and know it's there, but I can't believe it.
Like the receiving of it.
Right. The receiving of it to believe it, it's not there.
Yeah. And it sparks that negative voice.
And part of that is like the long-standing depression and, feelings of self-worth that came before the body weight.
Right.
But it's just compounded. I think to myself, what excuse do I have that I'm this big when everybody else has job, family, kids? If anybody should, be letting themselves go, so to speak, it would be the people with like families to take care of, where they don't have time to think about it. I don't have any of that. So it's like it's a comparison that I do in my head. And then all that just leads back to me not liking myself.
Right. Right. Well, I take this all very seriously, but I smile when you say that, because I go, that's just so not true. Look, for me, from my vantage point, I understand where you're coming from and that you're in this negative mental cycle. And yet I really believe that this is a great first step towards changing things, because I know the good human you are, the kindness in your heart, all this love to give, that if you can take steps to solve some of the health problems, I think it could be absolutely transformative for what's going on upstairs, which holds you back in these other ways that you're referencing.
For sure. And there may be a school of thought where people are like, well, you have to love yourself first before you love the outside. But for me, I can't love this. It's just not how I'm built. It's not how I'm wired. I can't love this version of me.
Yeah.
So I need to love a version of me that actually cares about how he looks and cares about feeling good and doesn't want to force, 15,000 calories into his body every couple days a week. And so this is a jump start to suppressing some of that natural appetite that now I've developed because of years of feeding my body in a certain way. This is going to help me, hopefully, to suppress some of that appetite so that I can then, as I'm eating better, because that's the other part of it. I can't just eat. I'm going to eat. This is a whole catalyst for a lifestyle change in that this is going to help me really say, okay, you have to change the way you eat. You have to change what you eat. And then, getting up and doing something, working out a little bit, getting back in the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the healing properties of the ocean are countless. And
yeah.
That's where if I can't be on a soccer field, I need to be in the ocean to feel good. So hopefully I can get back there because you can't go in the ocean if you're 350 pounds.
Right.
It's just not safe.
Yeah.
It's not safe. It's dangerous.
I think one of the things that has me so excited about these drugs for people that are struggling with their weight is how difficult it is to break that cycle because of all the things you're mentioning. It's like, okay, you want to go exercise, but it's very difficult to exercise a whole lot when you're carrying around an extra 200 pounds.
Yes.
It's difficult to break the eating cycle because your body leans hard towards homeostasis, where it's going to stay in the structure that you're in. So it's actually going to fight back against the losing of weight.
Yeah.
And it does seem, I'm really, really hoping there aren't long-term consequences to these drugs because you can short circuit that process. Suddenly we suppress that eating. You will naturally start to lose weight through that. You're more able to exercise. And then you've got a virtuous cycle going forward. I'm
also on this because I'm pre-diabetic.
Right.
And this is something that people with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, it's shown to help with type 2 diabetes.
Absolutely.
So that is on top of the weight loss. It is also trying to keep me from going into full type 2 diabetes, which I'm not there yet.
Right.
But all of the pre-symptoms, I think a couple of decimal points from being considered fully diabetic.
Right.
In my blood work. But yes, you're absolutely right. It's a cycle that needs to be broken. And in terms of long-term side effects, the risk is there, but the long-term side effect to not doing this feels much more permanent and catastrophic.
Sure. There's a reporter that wrote, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but I will include it in the notes for the show. He wrote a book on these drugs, weighing up the risks versus the benefits. And he went through the same analysis for himself. And he told this great story of it's Christmas Eve and he goes to a fried chicken joint. I believe he lived in London. And the guy at the counter says, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad you're here. I've got something for you in the back." He's like, what's going on? Goes in the back. He's gone for a little while, comes out. And everybody at the fried chicken place had written a card and they said, "You're our number one customer and Merry Christmas." And he takes his card and he said, "My heart absolutely broke because this wasn't my number one fried chicken joint." KFC was my number one.
Oh.
And he realized how out of control his eating was in that moment. And then in talking to medical professionals, they said, "Yeah, okay, we don't know all the long-term consequences of this drug, but we do know the long-term consequences of carrying this much weight and being diabetic."
Yeah.
And it is extremely likely that in that case, those consequences outweigh whatever we might discover with this drug in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put a humorous little spin on it.
Yeah.
There are things when you are this large that become difficult. And you may not even know that they become difficult. Recently I was at the doctor, got my checkup, and then I had to give a urine sample.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, okay, go into the bathroom and do the urine sample. Well, the bathroom is not small, but it's small for me because I take up so much space. I have to now figure out how to negotiate my body and my angles now. And in just the most blunt terms, I'm peeing blind into this cup. First of all, like, understand, like, that's hard.
Sure.
Like, when as men, we look down and we see that, oh, there, it's still there. Just like when we were 2 years old, we look down and we say, oh, that's still there. And, and I'm now going at this blindly. And I have my sweater that I had on in over my shoulder, and I'm trying to negotiate this, and it ends up not going the way I thought. There's the sample cup received about a quarter of what it should. My sweater falls down. I'm now urinated on my cashmere sweater because I had a nice sweater on because it's a new doctor.
Yeah.
And I've now soiled my sweater, and there's urine that now I have to clean up because it's a public bathroom. And the worst part is that I let out oh shit. And the people who are outside the waiting room could hear me.
Yeah.
And I realized they could hear me because I could hear them through the walls.
Yeah.
And I now get myself together and exit that bathroom. And I now have to wear my sweater a certain way, and I bring the sample, and the nurse at the front was like, okay. And I just realized, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm now having to negotiate a basic human function. Is
that negative self-talk running through your head as you exit the bathroom?
It was more comical to me because, peeing on yourself is funny. I've always thought that, when somebody else pees on themselves, like, it's a hoot. But I knew in my head, it was funny, and it wasn't as depressing as you might vision based on all that I've told you now. It was just this, like, comedy of errors because of my body size. And that was just ridiculous. The story when I felt really bad, again, it was a bathroom story.
Yeah.
But I went to the movies with my nephew. He's like, oh, he gets all this food. He's, a young kid, but it's nachos and it's popcorn and it's a big soda and it's, half of his hot dog that he doesn't eat, and it's all that stuff. And by the time the movie's over, I've consumed at least 3,000 calories based on all of that and the big tub of popcorn. And I go and we use the bathroom, and I can't get my pants buttoned. After unbuttoning them, my stomach had grown. I'd eaten too much. And that was the inability to button my pants, and then having to walk out of the theater holding my pants with my nephew was the worst feeling I've ever had.
Yeah.
Kind of funny because it's, you sit there struggling. I was leaning up against the bathroom wall trying to get my button.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I said, you know what? I don't know why I didn't wear my sweatpants that I always wear. Sorry for the bathroom humor on your podcast. But, it's just like that. Like, those are the things that when, some people talk about, how happy they are. I haven't figured out how to negotiate that kind of thing. Like, I can't square that. Like, having to negotiate my angles, and is this bathroom big enough? That's horrible.
Yeah.
It's a horrible feeling, but it's also like flying. Aisle seat. Aisle seat no matter what. has to be an aisle seat. Why? Because then I don't make the person sitting next to me feel uncomfortable because I've leaned into the aisle the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that getting on a flight, people are going to be like, I don't want to sit next to the fat person. I don't want to be the fat person that makes somebody uncomfortable. So I lean into the aisle the entire flight.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's those little things that just then make me feel horrible. It's horrible.
What other little mundane things are difficult because of the weight that most people wouldn't even think of?
I mean, going upstairs. Now, we need to make sure. I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day.
Right. Which is something else that needs to be addressed.
Which is, I had a biopsy on my lip recently.
If we cut away from me for a second there, it's because we had a little technical difficulty and had to work around it. But such is life when you're podcasting.
There you go. I think one of the biggest things, because I'm a communicator.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm on the phone, my breathing, or if I'm in person, it's my breathing.
Yeah.
That is it's probably one of the things that it's like, it always reminds me just how big and how out of shape and that I am. You can hear my breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that is just, people are wondering if I'm going to have a heart attack because it sounds that bad. And B, people are just like, listening to you breathing as I'm standing in line behind you has got to be one of the most, I don't like making people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Who are just trying to enjoy something that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's probably my biggest thing, is that because I can just imagine, like you're trying to go somewhere, you're in line at, Knott's Berry Farm, and you have this guy who's behind you, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just sweating profusely in October outside and breathing super heavily. And my nephew is tapping my stomach, and I can just imagine how that makes people feel uncomfortable, a little bit like, oh my God, just a little embarrassed for me, but then a little bit just uncomfortable. Like, I didn't come here to hear this dude breathing.
That doesn't make me feel uncomfortable if there's someone who's large behind me in line somewhere and they're breathing heavily and whatever else they're going through. But it seems to reveal how much, for you, what's going on internally, because you're so self-conscious about the weight and what's happening, and that it's somehow imposing on others.
100%. And don't get me wrong, most people are probably, they couldn't think twice about it. It's me projecting how I feel on myself onto these wonderful people,
right?
who don't think that way. But it's just how uncomfortable I feel.
Right.
Is that I think my discomfort is uncomfortable for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And on an airplane, yes, 100%. But just in general in life, I don't think most people think two things of it. I'm not the only one in society who looks like this, but but I feel like I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm this just like humongous, gross burden. And I've used that word a number of times and should probably find a different word, just because I don't want anybody to think that that's how I view people either. My entire view of me is just how I view me.
Sure. But even those words you use to describe yourself have a mental impact over time. I mean, I thought one of the best examples I've come across recently, my cousin who was recently divorced, has made the decision he's not ever going to refer to his ex-wife as his ex-wife, because that implies conflict. And he's only going to refer to her as the mother of his children when he references her in conversation, because that will reorient his brain towards what's really important, which is that they still have kids they have to raise together, even though they're no longer a couple.
Right.
And yeah, I think we got to find a better word than gross.
Yeah.
When you've got that self-talk going.
Yeah, I think so. And, that's why using this as like a catalyst to trying to feel better about myself. And yes, there's room for therapy, and I've been through that and believe heavily in it. In the benefits that it produces for me.
Yeah.
But it's just about the motivation to go.
Yeah.
There's no motivation. That's the one thing. It's taken out motivation and aspiration for me. And just, wanting to see the world and stuff like that. That hasn't existed for at least 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
The last place I went was Ecuador. And I said to myself, God, I got to keep exploring this beautiful world that we have, or, going down and fighting a bull.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
just having crazy experiences.
Yeah. That
it sounds like in every area of your life, this is bleeding into it and suppressing motivation and aspiration.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, every single area. When somebody asks me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't. I don't see anything. It's not like I see something great. I don't see something bad. I just don't see anything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not a good way to live. Mm-hmm. Especially because I got a niece and nephew who I love more than, life itself. And I can't even imagine not seeing them grow up. But then I can't imagine what I'll look like. I just can't. There's just there's no dreaming
right
anymore. There's no dreaming. I don't dream. I don't, that kind of thing. And that's not how to experience life.
Right. Well, I think I can speak for all of our friends when I say I'm excited you've made this choice for yourself, because we all want you here in 5 years and to be not just here, but the best, healthiest version of Jason that we know.
Yeah. And
is absolutely still there. You're still that person.
Yeah. And I want to be there because I want to see you guys and see your kids, we have kids going off to college soon.
Yeah.
And kids in high school and stuff like that. When I saw them in the, last time I was in person, they're in elementary school. And then I just realized oh my God, I haven't seen them in person in 3-4 years. It's crazy.
Now, earlier you mentioned that this negative cycle started back when you were 15.
Yes.
And you had these intrusive negative thoughts began then. Where do you think that came from?
I know where it came from. I don't know. It might be too heavy for podcast, but we can figure it out.
And as a quick disclaimer, if anyone is suffering from suicidal ideation, there is a suicide hotline. You can text 988. It is available 24/7 every day of the year, so that anyone who is in a emergency situation can always reach someone who will be able to help. A great tool for anybody out there struggling with thoughts about suicide.
I was 15 and severely depressed, but at that point I was on Olympic development soccer and trajectory to being possible, college soccer player. Mm-hmm. But the thing I didn't have was my father is divorced from my mother, and he was inconsistent. And inconsistent in kind of the worst way, not there, but inconsistent to where he would pop up or say he was popping up. And that was really hard for me to deal with. there was some other previous trauma that I had seen him be abusive and stuff like that. There's a form of abuse with that, in that telling your child that you're going to be somewhere and then not coming, or doing this and doing the other thing. And that was really hard for me to deal with. It was to the point where suicide was a thought at 15, even with everything going. Like when somebody would look at according to plan, everything was good and good.
Yeah.
But I worked through it with a therapist, and came to the conclusion that I would tell him that, you know what, I'm good.
Yeah.
You don't need to do this anymore. So on Christmas Eve, he came to say hi and deliver a birthday card and little knickknack he got from the supermarket just down the street. And I said, look, I'm good. You don't need to do this anymore. Don't expect it. I don't want it. I'm okay. You can just go live your life. And I'm sure that was hard for him to hear, but it's not really about him at the moment. And he told me that if that's how I felt, that I should slit my wrists.
Whoa.
So that's where, so when people, traumatic incident of self-worth, when, somebody knows, and he knew that that's how I felt because my mother let him know exactly everything that was going on with me and with my sister. And my mother was always trying to get him involved and make sure that we had him in the best light.
But he had this
information,
the most delicate, vulnerable information,
right?
And then used it against you when you tried to set a boundary.
Yes. So that's brutal. I don't know how many people know that.
I have not ever heard that story before.
Revelatory. But yeah, there's a lot that went into that. It shaped a lot of who I am. Some good, some bad. But yeah, so then since then, there's always been in the back of my mind. Always, there's, times where it's fighting, where I fight. Why did I wake up today? I'm glad I woke up today. Why did I wake up today? So those thoughts are more like, let's put a warning on this about talking about that. But yeah, it's like that kind of thing for me is, it's been something that I've dealt with. And, those feelings of, I don't want to be here, don't exist when I'm eating. But they exist when but they come back. And now it takes different forms.
The eating helps to self-soothe and suppress that stuff going on, just like alcohol does for some people.
Absolutely. It's food. It's food, and it's just as destructive. Not for the rest of society, but just internally, it's just as self-destructive. But it's twofold. It's self-destructive, and it's also comforting. Which makes it really, really hard to get past, or to to figure out and maneuver around, because I hate myself. Let me eat a ton. But I need to feel better.
Yeah.
So it's that cross section of emotions that, that you're in, and that creates the cycle of eating and feeling bad and that kind of thing.
Looking forward, what do you think this drug, Wegovy is the one we're looking at, but any of these GLP-1 inhibitors can substitute for it? What do you think it can possibly do for you in the future?
Well, like we said, keep me from getting full-blown diabetes. Controlling, I have to do more, discussions with my doctor and stuff like that, to get more information on everything that it'll do. But I'll be seeing an endocrinologist. Sounds good to me. And what expect it to do for me is to kind of is to be a Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. It's not, I don't see it as a miracle. I don't want to put too much stock in it, like New Year's Eve, like a New Year's day, like a New Year's resolution, because those haven't worked, you know. I just use it as something, just a quick, in a weird way. It's like a little shortcut, right? Or it's like a little boost, to just help me start feeling just a little bit better. Seeing a few pounds drop will be such a difference to me, because all I've seen is gain.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have a scale anywhere, and, you know, but to feel pounds dropping, or to not even just feel a little bit less hungry, to me, it's just because I'm ready to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest part of this, is that I'm now saying to myself, yes, all the things that have gone on in the past, how you feel about yourself, I'm ready to not feel that way anymore. And I think that's the most important part of this, because this isn't going to make me thin. It's just going to give me a tool to not be as hungry, so that I can do the other work that I need to do.
Right.
It's like,
which is, as Dr. Paul has mentioned, is key to any of these drugs, is you've got to change what you're eating, not just the quantities. Yeah. You got to get healthy, and then hopefully that kickstarts some exercise.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, I want to get out walking more, and not just, and I want to stop smoking cigarettes. And that's one of the big things, is, you know, but it's like one thing at a time.
There are a lot of people using these drugs to help quit smoking, because it suppresses any of these compulsive habits. I mean, using it to quit gambling, for gambling addiction, and it could be very helpful for that as well. What would it mean for you, though, to lose the weight?
It's about lack of burden. But there's going to be different phases. I'm going to have to get rid of my part of me that's been here for so long. So I have to come to grips with loss. I'll have to come to grips with loss and the emotions that come with loss, and the emotions that come to, you know, because I've become somewhat, as uncomfortable as I am in my skin, emotionally, there's a comfort level to being this. So I'll have to deal with that. But it's about wanting to change all of that. I want to be more positive. I want to live more positively, because that's the whole thing. I'm not living positively. I'm here, I'm breathing, but I'm not living positively. And I don't want to sound like, you know, Instagram influencer weirdo, but, you know, but it's just like, you know, I want to do stuff. I miss doing stuff, as in simple terms. Like, that to me is, you know, when you don't go anywhere, you go here, you go there, you're at home. That's it. You don't go do stuff. I don't go have a drink at a bar, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, so just going and doing stuff and feeling a little bit better.
Well, there's nothing Instagram influencery about just wanting to be able to live life the way that you want to live it.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember, like, back when I was younger, the dreams that I had and the things that I wanted to do. So yeah, I'd like to kind of pick, maybe not specifically those dreams up, but just be able to dream again.
Right.
Be able to aspire to something, be able to, you know, want to go after accomplishments and things of that nature. Like, that to me that's the most important part. And if this can jumpstart that and help and be a tool to use to help that, then I'm all for it.
Should we inject the first dose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, at least one of the side effects could be depression.
It's good to laugh at it.
You know, choose your injection site. So, upper arm, stomach. Do the dramatic stomach.
Okay.
I could go upper arm, but why go upper arm? I'm going to do the stomach.
All right, for the listeners out there, Jason is going to inject the shot now. All right, we've taken the first shot.
Yeah.
You feel better already?
I feel good. You know, I had my lip scraped this morning for a biopsy, so I'm more in pain on my mouth than anything else.
Okay.
So, but yeah, but it's good. Yeah.
It's not like a gnarly, huge needle, and so it felt like a
little prick.
Tiny prick.
Tiny prick.
Yes. Well, if my son were here. He's in middle school now.
Yeah.
It's just one joke after another.
It's gotta be fun. It's like, because you're kind of remembering just how awful your humor was.
Oh,
back then.
It is so much fun.
But it's hilarious. But it's also kind of funny. It's also still kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he channels the same type of humor that I had at that time.
Awesome.
All right, well, we'll do a subsequent interview.
Okay.
And check in and just see how the process is going, and we'll just be in touch to find the right time to do that when something has changed.
I'll do updates and stuff like that. I'm sure that I'll shoot a few updates. I'm not a big selfie camera guy, but you know, we'll actually show some stuff. I'll step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, maybe you'll become one.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe.
There is a Grimace YouTube channel out there in the future. I mean,
it would just be story time. I'll tell all the stories about back in that have happened to me, and
story time with Uncle Grimace.
Right.
Now, for those of you that don't know you personally,
yes.
like I do, I just referred to you as Grimace.
Yes,
your name is Jason Magee.
Yes, it is.
Can you just tell us the story of how you came to earn the nickname Grimace?
Oh boy. So freshman year at college, the soccer team had their what we call freshman initiation. Now, we've moved on as a society from that. In that we don't do those things anymore. But
right.
This was back when we did. And the initiation was essentially a party where the older people would, teammates would get drunk. And for us, it was always like a rebellion kind of thing because it was during what the college deemed dry week.
Right.
Which meant there was no alcohol on campus.
Yeah.
So my roommate and great friend, Eric Dugan, who I went there to play with, he was like, well, tonight's freshman initiation. And, I know you haven't drank that much in high school because I wasn't a big drinker at all. I think I got drunk maybe once off of champagne at a prom.
Okay.
But other than that, I hadn't drank or anything like that. He said, like, trust me, you're going to need something on your stomach. And me think, hey, this is Dugan. He's been here before. He knows what he's talking about. So we go to, now in Claremont, there's a special burger place. And it's right next to, there's an In-N-Out. Mm-hmm. And it's, always busy, In-N-Out classic California burger. But this place that he took me was called Easy Out.
Yeah.
And it was across the street. Right there, I think on Foothill.
It was on Foothill.
On Foothill.
Yeah.
A stone's throw away from possibly the seediest strip club in California, Deja Vu, which, I'm sure was run by some, 1%er motorcycle club. And he takes me easy out.
Which is like the sad knockoff of In-N-Out.
It's the sad knockoff. The meat there, the most questionable. It was meat. It was definitely meat, but it was probably a step above dog food.
Mm-hmm.
I was starving, right? And remember, at this time, we're running, I'm playing soccer just in a game or a practice, 6 miles a day. Really hard, tough workouts. I eat 2 easy out double burgers, not double doubles, but easy out double burgers.
Right.
Sketchy, gross tomato. And I remember this entire thing. Sketchy, gross tomato, half-ass Russian dressing with so it didn't have the relish in it. It was just tomato, and Old Mayo had to be, and just the nastiest, stalest bun ever. And I powered it all down and got my first beer in me in the passenger seat, and we were off to the races. Now, binging. This is when, when you're sitting there and you realize that, okay, this is binge drinking. This is a college phenomenon, and it happens. And so we have the party. It's on campus, which is sketchy enough because campus security. And it's our team and the women's soccer team together combined.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the party starts, and I come into the thing just hammered. Dugan and had gotten a bottle of what's Goldschlager. So for the kids, think Fireball,
yes,
but classier because it had gold flakes in it. So
little flecks of gold dancing.
Give us a little credit. We were living high. But it's cinnamon flavored liqueur. It's thick. It's disgusting. And it's only meant to be consumed by people 18 to 24.
Yes.
It's not made for an luxury palate. It's not made for an older palate. So I came into the party and I'm ready to go. I get along with everybody, but it was still a freshman, and you still got to go through your paces and do the whole thing. And so they're just feeding us alcohol. I keep wanting to take more shots. I'm having a blast, right? And eventually I end up in the shower, and that easy out meal ends up next to me.
Yes.
And I'm wearing a little of it. And the problem is that it didn't digest. So it came back up almost whole. And you could see that there was a burger in my recent past, but also this humongous grin on my face. And, I forgot. They had shaved my head. Prior to the bathroom, they had shaved my head and my eyebrow. Which, okay, weird, but sure. And they had written, things in marker on me, all in good fun. Nothing at all mean-spirited or anything. Just good fun.
Yeah.
And my shaved head and my smile with the burger, one of the team's leaders, Timmy Kang, fantastic man,
yes,
wonderful human being. In San Francisco, he's a doctor. He came up and he said, "You look like Grimace," with the shaved head and the smile on my face. So that stuck.
And this is Grimace.
Grimace D. McDonald's purple character that recently came out with their own shake that was absolutely disgusting. Of course, I tried it, but. That was how I've been known as Grimace, and that name has stuck in terms of everyone that we're around. In fact, all of your wives call me Grimace.
Yeah.
Not Jason.
I have never known you as Jason because I transferred in the next year.
Right.
And you were Grimace by that
Grimace.
time. I mean, that's how I was introduced to you.
It was Grimace. And it just, I think it comes, there's a drunken smile that I get on my face that I don't have naturally. I'm not a big, like, grinning from ear to ear kind of person. But when I drink, that's how I am. And so it was the Grimace smile kind of thing. And that's how the name evolved. And it stuck. And our old coach even calls me Grimace to this day.
Yes. Yes.
Shout out to Bill, of course. But yeah, so that's how that name came about.
There we go.
All right.
All right. Well, I cannot wait to do an update in the near future.
I'm excited. Thank you for this. This was fantastic.
This was fun.
Yeah. It's therapeutic.
Yeah. I mean, that was
covered a lot of stuff.
It was actually like really cool. Like I learned a lot about you that I did not know.
Yeah. No, those are what you learned today. That the part about my dad was a that's an onion.
Yeah,
that's the heart of the onion that that I never usually talked about. But,
right.
Yeah, but it's part of me. I'm glad you got to hear it.
Well, thank you for sharing all of it. Seriously,
thank you,
and
thank you for creating a space for me to share that. I appreciate that.
I really do think that's a message that. The whole thing, the struggle, all the issues with it and the hope for the future. Like that's a message a lot of people need to hear.
No, I mean, it's just about no matter what people are going through, whether it's obesity or something else, like something else. We all go through something.
Hey, everybody. Until next time, ask questions. Don't accept the status quo and be curious.